What's up, guys? Ronin Man here. Guys don't really have many ways to deal with pain. There aren't many socially acceptable outlets for guys. And that's why I think people gravitate towards videos like mine, because they allow somebody to see what they went through and helps them to process that emotion so that they can, they subconsciously feel something, and through hearing it explained and seeing it from another person's eyes, they're able to consciously put it in their minds and understand it. And then also, whenever you consciously and subconsciously understand an idea, then that's when you really have the concept. Until you really understand it consciously and subconsciously, it's not quite yet learned, right? So it happens by second nature. You start to understand the implications of things. You can see things coming on. You see the subtleties. You might recognize a variation that you've never seen before, but because you fully understand the concept, it's like, okay, I get it. You've ridden a bicycle, so a unicycle is not that difficult. You're like, okay, I get it. There's one wheel instead of two. I have to balance on this thing, right? It's not like, what is this wheel? What do I do? What does a man do with this wheel? You know what I mean? You basically get it, right? Now, you might have a little difficulty getting the balance on that one wheel, but the concept is there. So I want to talk today about something that a lot of guys ask me or often comment below the videos saying things like, my video about mental illness, and I really mislabeled that mental illness. It's not really mental illness. It's personality disorder. So that's what I was talking about in that original video, personality disorder. So cluster B, personality disorder, or psychopathy. And I want to describe how a psychopath thinks. This will help you to understand the difference between a safe or a very, very dangerous person. And the reason why I think this is important is because when somebody is hurt or has a difficult time, they tend to lump everybody together. So, for example, if a guy is cheated on by a woman, he tends to see all women as being unfaithful. Same with somebody who is, their friend has been mugged, or they have been mugged, they have been physically assaulted and robbed, and they tend to distrust everybody at night when they're walking home from work. And this is a natural thing. This is because they're starting to, they understand there's danger out there now, that it's real to them, and they better protect themselves. But they haven't quite got the fine-tuned mechanism that allows them to really know the difference between types of people, and to be able to put almost a grade, like a percentage, on the different types of people. This is where you become very sophisticated in life. This is your goal as a man. Your goal is to understand the risks in life and almost to be able to put an exact percentage on them so that you can give that much, of your effort to protect yourself in some certain situations. You can invest a certain amount of money, a certain amount of time, and you will end up winning in life more when you're able to put those subtle distinctions on there. I know it's very tempting. It's very, very tempting to say black and white. Women are like this. Female nature is like this. But I want to describe something here. I think it might be very interesting for you and something that you've never thought about. And if you have, people, cluster B personalities are about 15% of the population. And when I say cluster B, I'm just going to say there's many terms that you can use. So one of them there's psychopathy, psychopaths. There's various forms of narcissism, malignant narcissism, covert narcissism, overt narcissism. There is, let's see what else. Sociopath. There's a sociopath. So there's these different labels, and they all are very distinct. But at the same time, I want to lump them all together for this particular podcast. And imagine a bell curve, okay? There's a bell curve in the middle, right? And it goes up and then it goes down. I'm describing people on the very far end. Okay, so that's all you need to know. And they have a lot in common. And so I want to put them down to say manipulative people. Okay, they're deliberately manipulating. So they're not in the middle. So that's the distinction I want you to make here, is that everybody can manipulate. Okay, every person, you manipulate. You try to manipulate your children so they don't run in the street, right? That's considered a good form of manipulation. You're trying to manipulate your friend not to hurt themselves, not, you know what I mean, not to do something that's not good for them. So you might, you see on TV some guy, somebody's going to commit suicide, and the firefighter or whoever is the person that's responding there, they try to talk them out of it, right? They try to manipulate them. That's what it is. They're trying to manipulate that the person wants to jump, and they're trying to get them not to do that, right? They're trying to get the kids not to run in the street, not to put their hand on the fire, trying to get your kid not to use heroin. So these are forms of manipulation that we accept as society. These are good. We have, this is good. You want to be able to manipulate, because otherwise you just have no ability to influence anybody. That book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? So there's forms of, now for some reason we use different words, but it's a form of manipulation. I mean, in the end, if you've ever been around children and they're trying to get more candy, it's like you're downright, it's you against them. You're trying to outsmart this kid, basically, right? And the kids are so damn smart that whatever you figure out to get them not to do something once doesn't work the second time, because they've already figured that one out. Now they're going to do something. Now you need to come up with some new strategy to get them not to do that thing. And that is the never-ending challenge of dealing with people. So manipulation is something we all deal with. I don't want to put a label on it like it's so terrible. It isn't. We do want to manipulate, and we want to manipulate ourselves too. We want to influence ourselves to do something, to go to the gym, to do something that we really want to do, right? We know we want to do it, but we just haven't got the motivation. We need to force ourselves. We need to get ourselves to do that thing, right? So this is normal, and women will have various forms of manipulation that everybody will use. And to make even matters worse, is anybody who's on the extreme bell curve there of manipulative person is employing tactics that a normal person might use. So it's in the frequency, it's in the lack of empathy that they use tools. There are subtle distinctions that, taken together, make a huge difference in the person's influence in other people's lives. Okay, that's the end result. The end result is that somebody who is a psychopath or a malignant narcissist, or a sociopath who has many of there's a checklist of all these things. There's like a checklist. So nobody has all of them. Or I shouldn't say nobody. There are people with all 9 malignant narcissist characteristics, but generally most people have 7 or 8, and they're still considered malignant, right? They're on the extreme end. So let's talk about how a very manipulated person operates. So what they're going to try to do now, your first impression of a manipulative psychopath, let's use the word psychopath because it's easier to see. Psychopath, because they're on the extreme end of this, so let's use psychopath. So psychopath, when you think of a psychopath, or when you watch a Hollywood movie about psychopathy, it's generally going to be a man, almost always going to be a man, and which is very unfair, because the cluster B personality, and especially psychopathy is something where it's physical in the brain. So for example, with a psychopath, this is great about psychopathy. This is why I use it as an example, because it's like you can see it on an MRI, because the brain, when you say words, okay, let's say you say different words to somebody, you say, and then they're in an MRI, you say, car, friendship, love, transmission, gravity, deception, theft, suicide. When you say these different words, a normal person, or whatever you call a normal person, I'm using these terms, okay, let's not get hung up. Let's just using these terms for people in the middle of the bell curve, right? Or the generally people on the curves towards the middle. So a normal person will have their brain, when they hear an emotive word, so a word with emotion, a certain part of the brain, I forget which one it is, a pituitary gland. Either way, part of the brain lights up. So it doesn't light up when they say words like dirt, but it does when they say painful divorce. So it's like, oh, the brain's like, oh, that's different, right? Friendship, betrayal. These things, the brain is lighting up on all these things. Now, a psychopath is a great example because some of the cluster B personalities are a choice. So they are something where the person was in a situation where they could have gone either way, and they made a decision to go down a certain road of deception. And once they made that decision, that was the road they choose for life. And they become more and more and more ensconced in that way of being. Now, a psychopath is different. A psychopath is born. It's a physical thing. So that's what's so beautiful about psychopaths. You can actually see this stuff on an MRI. So what does a psychopath do in real life? So psychopathy is quite common, actually. It's not uncommon. And this is why I forgive guys who are very, very angry, because if you were involved with a person who is a psychopath, it's very painful. Like, it's extremely painful. I've had a couple of experiences with psychopaths, and one of them was a female and one of them was a male. Both of them were very interesting, and they both were very, very shocking to me. Both of them I could not understand it. Now I do understand it partly because I was forced to understand it. I had to understand it for my own survival. And so I spent a long time studying and reading a crazy amount of books and about psychopathy, about extreme malignant, cluster B personalities. And I figured it out. And now I can see it from the outside inside. That's why I'm coming to you. This podcast is the result of thousands of hours of study, maybe even tens of thousands of hours. So there is a lot of research and reading and very hard internal work on my own part to bring you this information right now. Okay, so what is a psychopath? A psychopath is not what you think. A psychopath is not a certain age person. It's not a certain sex. So when you think of a psychopath, when you probably think of the media. So what is a psychopath? Psychopath is generally it's usually a man, someone like Adolf Hitler. It's usually somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer, who, so it's either somebody who led a terrible campaign as a leader, as a political leader, or as a business leader. You might think of some other business leader that did something terrible, like a Bernie Madoff, right? And you might think of, let's see what else. So Jeffrey Dahmer, somebody who kills people. This is the most common one. This is the most visceral one. This is the one that people hold on to. That's why I mention it, because it's a big, big mistake. Okay, it's a huge mistake to think of a psychopath as a murderer, because psychopaths are very, very different than that. Now, psychopathy can lead to murder, no problem, but it is not connected. So let's talk about what really is a psychopath. What is that? Okay, what is the difference between somebody like this and a regular person? So a psychopath, like I said, they don't have that same emotion. The emotive words do not light up their brain. Okay, so they don't have that emotional response to things that most people have. This is a key thing. So what happens if you don't have those emotional responses? Okay, let's go into your life, into my life. What role does it play? Emotion is it's something that's so part of us. It's so, to most people and this is partly why psychopaths go unnoticed, is because the idea that you wouldn't have emotion and also human bond with other humans is so impossible to think of for the average person, that it's just like, it's impossible. Like, guys cannot even imagine, or women cannot even imagine, like, somebody who doesn't connect with people, who doesn't feel that human bond. It's such a part of us as humans, normal humans. We just, from birth, we bond with our mother. We bond with, it's so difficult. I remember when my friends, they had a maid who raised their children, because the father and mother were always busy working. And I remember my friend said, "That's not smart. That's not smart." And I said, "Well, I thought it was kind of smart because, they had a very good life. They were very wealthy. It didn't matter. And the maid was taking good care of the kids. The kids were very happy. The parents were happy. Everything seemed happy to me. I was young and I couldn't really see any problem there. But the person who was older and wiser said, no, the reason why that's no good is because the children will form a bond with that maid, and as a motherly bond." And I was like, right, motherly bond, okay. And then once the children form that motherly bond with the maid, that maid becomes very, very important in their life. And when that maid goes, when they fire that maid or when they move, the children are going to be traumatized and they won't understand what's happening. And the parents will not understand what they're doing, what is going on inside of that child, because that child has formed a bond, a parental bond with that maid. And they don't understand the difference, little kids. It's like, this is my mother, that's my mother. If you see little kids, I know here in Asia, it's quite interesting. I can see it because whenever there's a kid with somebody who looks like me, a father who looks like me, is the little kid will be in their stroller or whatever, and they'll look at me because everybody here is Asian. I live in Asia, right? So they'll see me and then they'll go, "Dada, dada, dada," and then the mother will say, "Oh no, that's not your daddy. That's and I'll be like, and I'll smile and I'll be nice because I realize the kid actually thinks I'm his father because I look, his father is very unique. Of all the faces that kid sees in his daily life, that father is a unique face, right? My face looks very different than an Asian face. So the little kid's like, "Dada, dada," and then the mother has to say, "No, that's not dada. That's not dada." So you can see there's that bond, there's that yearning, that connection, right? Well, psychopaths don't have that. Psychopaths don't have, another thing they don't have is they don't have empathy. So they don't empathize with other human beings. What does that mean? What happens in real life? Okay, so there's two types of empathy. There's emotive empathy and there's cognitive empathy. So one empathy is where you feel it, like a normal empathy, a human being feels for other people. So you might, let's say your boss is very good to you and your company, you've worked there for a long time. And so you wouldn't do anything, you might quit the job. I mean, you're not going to be a slave to them, but at the same time, there's certain lines you will not cross because this person has been good to you, right? This is a normal thing. Now, a psychopath, the lack of empathy means that doesn't stop them. So you could be a psychopath who, again, looks like a normal person. It could be a beautiful 18-year-old girl. It could be a priest. It could be a doctor. It could be your father. It could be your wife. It could be any person. So stop to get those faces out of your mind. It could be any person. It's a percentage of every people. So there's a certain percentage of any type of people at any age that is this personality. So, okay, so you have somebody working for you. You've been very good to them. And so, you kind of trust them. You assume that they wouldn't steal from your company. But that's not true with a psychopath. A psychopath does not value that same connection that you value. So a normal person says, "Man, I would love to steal the database of this company because I can go start my own company. This will get me started. I can take all the commission. Man, I really want to do it. But this guy's been so good to me. This woman's been so good to me. I can't do that to them." It's like, not them. And you kind of wish they would screw you over or something so that you could have an excuse, to go and do what you want to do. But they don't do it. They're nice to you. You look at them and you're like, "I can't do it. There's no way," right? A psychopath, no. There's no breaks. So a psychopath, now again, you have to listen to what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they'll do anything. I'm just describing an exact incident right now, is that there's a boss who is very good to the employee and they work there a long time and you trust them a lot. So normal people trust other people over time. So when you first meet somebody on Tinder or off Craigslist, you don't trust them. And then over time, you start to trust them. And this is a very big mistake with a psychopath because you think, oh, this person now feels the way I feel. Like they feel the same way I feel. Like, as an employer, I've employed many people in my life, paid a lot of salaries and paid a lot of taxes, and so I know how this is from an employer's perspective. Is if I've been very good to somebody, maybe they didn't close any commissions, they didn't close any sales for like a long time. I had one employee in Japan who didn't close a deal for 2 years, and I paid his salary every month, and it was very painful because he never made a commission. He never made a sale for those 2 years, but he was working very hard, and I felt like he was on the right track. I mean, this guy was a really hard worker and really smart too, and very nice too, very easy to get along with. So I thought he was an asset to my small company. He was an asset. He was an asset emotionally in the office. He was like somebody that was always cheerful. He was always hardworking. He was very honest. But he just wasn't a good moneymaker. And I felt like, I don't know, I'm going to keep this guy around. And he never did earn money for me. So I lost whatever it was, $2,500 a month salary for 2 years on this guy. But I don't know if I really lost because he kept me motivated and I earned money. So I don't know. Of course I would, if I went back in time, I would probably have to let the guy go. But I liked him. And I knew that he needed the money. I knew that he enjoyed the job, and I actually knew he was doing his best. He just wasn't a salesman, this guy, and he was in a sales position. He had to close deals, right? So live and learn. Either way, I developed a bond with him, so I paid him a salary. I kept him on longer than I would have kept him on, partly because of my empathy for his situation. I knew how much he wanted the job, needed the visa, and also I was helping him because he had a lot of student debt, and I was able to write letters, as an employer of record. I was able to write letters that the reason why he can't pay his debt yet is because his salary is this and that, and that also helped him, and I was willing to do that for him. So I knew that was important for him too. So either way, I developed a bond for this kid. He was a nice guy, But a psychopath does not develop a bond. And on the opposite end, a psychopath, if the psychopath is being taken care of, it doesn't mean shit to them. Like literally, they will work for you for 8 years. You can treat them like your own son, and they'll just steal your database while they're smiling about it. And there's another interesting thing about a psychopath. So again, take out of your mind that it's a man or woman, that it's young or old, that it's a certain age, that it's a certain sex, that it's a certain color. There are no rules. This is born. This is absolute genetic. So, and again, this also applies for the malignant forms of narcissism, and sociopathy, which are generally accepted as partly genetic and partly situational. Like smoking, right? You get lung cancer partly because you smoked, partly because you had a weakness for lung cancer, and so some people smoke their whole lives and don't get lung cancer because they don't have a weakness for that, right? So this is what I'm talking about. So either way, all those people together, they are kind of the same on this particular one, right? So they don't have empathy, they don't have loyalty, they don't see your situation, they can't put themselves in your shoes. Now, cognitive empathy is different. Now, some sociopaths, some psychopaths have cognitive empathy. Now, what is cognitive empathy? That is the ability, you can probably hear the words, you can think of it. Cognitive empathy is when you can look at someone and you can understand what they're feeling, even though you don't feel it yourself. Okay? So you might watch a movie and you understand why the guy's crying. A psychopath could that has cognitive empathy, which most do, can see, okay, that person there, his son died, was run over by a truck, and so he's crying because his son died and was run over by a truck. So he understands that. A psychopath can look at that logically and say, I understand that, And so also, because they understand that, a psychopath, a malignant narcissist, any of these cluster B personalities, their job is manipulation, okay? This is the heart. If you ask them what's your job, they wouldn't tell you. But their job is manipulation of others for their own benefit. So they're going to look for ways to manipulate others. Now, what's the problem with being a felon, for example? If I have a felony record, okay, which I don't, but let's say I did, Let's say I had a felony record and I go apply for a job. Why do they ask you if you're a felon when you apply for a visa or a job? The reason why is because you're more likely to do it again. So they're going to put you in a different category if you have a record. So a psychopath is the same. Is if nobody suspects them of being a psychopath, they're going to get what they want much easier. And if they are known as a psychopath, it's very difficult for them to get anything because people will not trust them from the beginning. This is why it's so important for a psychopath or a malignant narcissist to stay hidden. And this is why, even though 15% of the population is in this spectrum, why you don't see it in real life, because it is very important to these people to remain undetected. This is like the most important thing for them, because they need to be undetected, because otherwise they cannot get what they want, because you're not going to believe them. You're going to start to look at them more clearly, and you're going to start to spot warning signs, red flags. You're going to see red flags easier, because it's just like a felon. If money disappears, okay, let's just say, for example, somebody has a oil exploration company and it goes bankrupt because they defrauded the investors, okay? Then they make a new oil exploration company, and the new investors, when they're trying to decide if they should invest, they're going to look online. If they see that this person in the past or their partner has defrauded investors of this exact same business before, they're going to be very, very wary of investing in this new company, because they'll be like, wait a second. This person defrauded investors in oil exploration in the past. Okay, it's proven. Now they have a new company doing oil exploration. I'm not going to invest in that company because they've already been caught doing it, right? And now it's the same business, 10 years later or whatever. It's the exact same business. I'm not going to invest in that, right? So a psychopath being hidden is key, because then you don't see the past history. So same situation is if money disappears in a company. Let's say there's 3 employees in the office, money disappears. If somebody has been fired for stealing money in the past and nobody knows about it, then doubt goes to everybody. Everybody's doubted. Now, if that person was fired from their last job for stealing money, let's say it was, the same type of money. So let's say it was a wallet that somebody left around, or, whatever, it was the exact same theft happened in their last job, and there's 3 people in the office, immediately everyone's going to think it's them. Now, that doesn't mean it is them, but, definitely it's an intelligent person would say, there is a good likelihood that it could be them, and let's check that out. Let's make sure, let's look in his bag, let's look in her bag and see if there's a wallet in there, if there's any money in there. Before they leave, let's make sure that money's not in their bag in particular. Let's check everybody just to look fair, but we know that this happened in their last job. So somebody who is manipulating, somebody who is taking advantage of other people, their number one thing is not being seen, okay? This is their number one goal. So this is why you don't see people being being diagnosed as psychopaths, because their biggest thing is not to be seen. Okay? So what I'm saying is don't expect to ever find out definitively if somebody is a psychopath, because you will not find it. People are not diagnosed, even though we know that 15% of the population is is one of these extreme cluster B personalities. There's no labels. So what you'll see from mainstream society, they'll say, "Well, you're a normal person, right? You're not they're going to shut you down, basically. Let's say you're not a psychotherapist. This person has not been diagnosed with this. Well, who are you to label them this?" But the thing is, and I understand that, and definitely you don't want to go around out of your area of expertise labeling people, and that would be a very dangerous thing. But at the same time, you have to look at the reality of your life. The reality of your life is that people are not diagnosed, is that psychopaths, they are very, very tricky, and they're going to make sure that they're not diagnosed. And also, we know that it is actually very, very difficult to diagnose these people because they're very, very clever. So even if they are in a situation like cognitive empathy, they can see what they're supposed to say. So in any situation, it's very difficult to see. You have to trust your instinct on this one, and you have to be very thorough and honest with yourself also. Because do not jump to any conclusions after hearing this podcast. Do not. Okay, I'm just saying right now, do not, because you will regret it. You will regret it. You have to be very, 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 very careful, even in your own mind, about labeling somebody this way. Because if you do this wrong, you will regret it. You really will regret it. Because if somebody's a good person and they just, did something that looked like this, and you later figured out this was not true, it's really a terrible thing to say about somebody, because they will take it very personally if they're not. But now a psychopath is different, because a psychopath, usually about age 15, they're going to have some kind of run-in in their life. So they might, for example, beat up the neighbor. Let's say it's a girl. She might beat up the neighbor girl and not feel anything about it. She doesn't even understand why the person doesn't want to be beaten up. It totally doesn't cross her mind. And then the girl's father might say, "You better stop beating up my daughter." And then she's like, oh, okay. She understands. And so what happens generally in most psychopaths is that about age 15, something happens where they get kind of confronted. So they might do something at school, usually at school or in social situation or in the family, where they're going to do something where everybody kind of finds out that they're different, okay? And then that's when they really realize, because before that, they might kind of know that they're different, or that they might suspect they're different, but there's going to be one situation in their life where they realize that they're unequivocally not the same as other people. And then from that point on, their kind of goal is to understand themselves and also to understand other people, and to realize that they realize quickly that the number one thing is that people don't know that they're different, because this will take away all their power. Now, what is it? What does a psychopath feel? If they don't feel empathy, they don't emote, they don't bond with other humans, what do they feel? They do feel stuff, okay? This is the complex thing. They feel the chemical of dopamine. They feel, okay? Dopamine is something, it's a chemical of kind of excitement. So a psychopath will feel excited about stuff and like to feel excited. They like to feel dopamine. Okay, so how do they get the dopamine feeling? Okay, a psychopath, what they're doing is they're creating a mask because they realize they're different, and they see it as an advantage. Okay, they see it as an advantage. They don't have the connection. Okay, they don't have the brakes, like I said, that stop other people from doing things in their own interests because of an emotional connection. So because they don't have those brakes, they're able to take things and get things without any compunction. And they think other people are they're stupid. So for example, they might want to have a baby with somebody. And then as soon as they get pregnant, they just think, I'm just going to, I want this baby myself. I don't want him in my life. I'm going to, and then they realize that this other person has a connection to them. So for example, the other person loves them, okay, which is the greatest, deepest human bond, is the bond, the bond of love. And so this is the strongest bond. And this is the most kind of dangerous bond to fall into. And everybody knows that, love is blind and all this stuff. And, every poem and every suicide, everything, so many things are connected. So we all know that love is the most deepest bond, and it's the most difficult bond to get over. How many times have you had a friend who's like in a bad situation, you're trying to tell them, don't do that. And then they're like, they don't see it, right? Because they're bonded. They're so bonded by this feeling. It's a lot of chemicals in their mind, dopamine and all these different chemicals that are going on, complex mix of feelings that makes it difficult to hear logical things. So they're very emotional. So the psychopath, let's say the psychopathic woman, if she wants a child, she will see a person that looks the way they want or has the money they want, has something they want, and they say, okay, I want to have a child with this person, and then after I get pregnant, I will discard them. So they will get pregnant, then as soon as they're pregnant, they will change completely. Now, everybody changes. Okay, this is the complex thing about people. You have to really get life and to protect yourself. And I really want to state this. This is not to protect women or psychopaths or men psychopaths. This is to protect you. Understanding life and the complexities and the grayness. So think of a scale of 1 to 100. Being able to put people on that scale as a 98 or a 96 or a 91 or a 54 or a 42. To be able to put people on that scale is to your advantage. You gain when you understand the subtleties of various things because you make better decisions than other people. Okay, this is a very high level skill. A black and white person is always making mistakes because they don't see the subtleties. They're not able to navigate the subtleties of life. So being able to navigate these things is to your advantage. This is not to protect women or to protect any psychopath. This is to protect you. So understanding that women do change, women do manipulate, men manipulate. Actually, men's brains change after they have children, but men's brains change. But that's different than what I'm talking about. So a person lacking in empathy, okay, a woman, let's say a psychopathic woman, she wants a baby. She's like, I want a baby. She gets pregnant. So what is she going to do to get pregnant? She's going to act however it is that the guy wants her to act. So she's going to look at him very closely. Okay, she's going to study this man. She's going to look at him and try to decide what it is. Psychopaths, because they don't have they don't emote, they don't have human bonding, they're bored. Okay, they're bored a lot of the time because their brains are not like ours. Our brains are very, very busy with emotions. We're, normal people, we're thinking like, so many things. Like sometimes things are simple in a logical sense, but they're complex when you add emotions in. So for example, let's say selling human organs. Logically, it makes sense that anybody could sell their kidneys, somebody could sell their heart. They could decide they want to die and they could sell their heart for a lot of money and give that money to a charity or to a friend or to their son or daughter. That would make logical sense because the person's going to commit suicide. They want to end their life. And they think, well, I could sell my heart for this much. I could sell my lungs for this much. So logically, it would be good for humanity. Everybody's on a waiting list for kidneys and livers, but they don't get them and they die because there's not enough organs. Why is there not enough organs? Because society doesn't allow people to sell them. Now, that's because of emotion. That's human emotion. So logically, it makes sense. You have 2 kidneys, you should be able to sell one. And you should be able to make a lot of money for that. The problem is society doesn't want that because they don't want people making these kind of decisions, and 2, they don't want some thief, killing people and taking their organs and selling them, right? So there's other complications that happen whenever there's a market for these things. But logically, that could be managed just like anything else. Having expensive jewels also creates thieves, right? And thieves break into jewelry shops and steal jewels. But we also, as a human, race, we deal with that, because we realize that there's a benefit. And logically, as a totally logical, cold, logical person, it would be a better world if organs were for sale. Because whenever you had a problem, you could decide if you wanted to buy a new one, if you wanted to regenerate, you wanted to do something, and somebody else could make this decision that they want to sell this thing. Just like when the Japanese, when Fukushima nuclear plant happened, a bunch of older Japanese men volunteered to go into the radiation, into the heart of the reactor, and knowing they were going to die because they said, I'm old, Japan needs somebody to go in there. So these guys, I thought it was pretty cool, but they volunteered. They said, they knew that if this thing totally melted down completely, Japan might be uninhabitable. It might be the end of Japan, and definitely the end of Tokyo. They actually made plans for for depopulating all of Tokyo, And so these men who knew they were old and they knew that they didn't have that many years left, volunteered. It was really cool to make that sacrifice because they knew that they were going to die, and they knew that the sacrifice was going to be huge benefit. Like, let's say if 1,000 old men, Japanese men, volunteered, then no matter how strong the radiation is, they could walk straight into it, get a bucket of like extremely radioactive material and walk out and then pour it into something and then die. They would be capable of that, because no matter how strong the radiation is, you can do something like that. So the men made that kind of a decision, and I think that was a good decision. And I think the ability to sell organs would help humanity. But again, this is logical and this is emotion. Psychopaths don't have that emotion, so their brains run very clean. Okay, so they can think very clearly. So when they look at you, what they're looking for. A psychopath, when they see you, when they want to take advantage of you. So let's say, back to the baby example, the woman wants a baby. So she's going to study you. She's going to study, she's looking for what is what is the most important thing to you. So every guy and every woman has something that's important to them. So it might be their family, it might be their job. They might consider like doing a good job being the most important thing. And they're very proud of their profession. It might be somebody who's a very social person, who they might not care about their job. They don't care about their job. It's like whatever. It's like a changeable thing to them. But human beings and a connection with other humans is super important to them. So a psychopath will see that, okay, and so we'll encourage that when they are in the initial phase of abusing a person. So they will say, it's called the love bombing stage. So they'll realize that person is very social, for example. So they will arrange things to make sure that person is social. They will meet all their friends. They will make sure they will meet their family. They will put on a very good face, like being very social and very normal. And then in that way, they are reflecting back, essentially. They're reflecting back your most valuable thing. And the reason why it's easy to fall in love with this is because they are reflecting back the best part of you back to you. So you see them kind of understanding the real you. So if you're let's back to the social person loves to talk to people. They get energy from connecting to other humans. They don't need a very, very social person does not need time alone that much. They, in fact, get energy from meeting people. They want to meet their friends. They want to talk to their friends. When somebody comes to look to buy their house, they want to talk to them. When they would take a walk, they stop and say hi to people. They find out that the neighbor is a veterinarian. They find out that the neighbor just got a job with the Chinese company. They go to any kind of get together they see in the neighborhood, they're going to go to it right away, right? When they go to the Mexican restaurant, they're going to make friends with the people working there, right? A social person, it's almost like this. They can be social with anybody. Like they're just social all the time. Like that's the way they are. That's the way they are. They're going to be social all the time and at any moment and with anybody unless they really get burned, and then it's quite painful for them because they really enjoy that, right? So what will a psychopath do? A psychopath, number one, the psychopath does not bond. So the reason why they're making a relationship with this person is not because a normal feeling that they want to, connect with this person or be happy or have a good life together. There's going to be a couple of logical reasons. So one logical reason might be to look normal. So looking normal is very important to a psychopath because they don't want to look abnormal. They don't want to be seen for what they are. It's very important they're not seen for being abnormal, and especially not having emotion and not caring about people. This is like poison if they want to get what they want in life, right? They want to get the best job. They want to get the best baby. They want to get, they want to get the best husband. They want to get all these things in life, right? The way they get them is from other people. Everything you want it's another person has it. If you go to Mars, you're going to totally change. If you're alone on Mars, you will not have, there's no, you know what I mean? Like everything changes when there's no people. So in our human existence, people are everything, right? So everything we want is from people. So the way that they continue getting things from people is by people not recognizing, like I said before, recognizing them. So the psychopath then will mirror back to you it's called the love bombing stage. They will mirror back to you yourself. So back to the social person, they mirror back that they are very social, that they laugh at your jokes, that they like to meet your friends, they want to meet everybody, they talk about in the future of meeting everybody and you meeting their family, and they meet your family and they meet your friends and they sit down and they put on a good mask. And this is because they know this is what you want. So then now as soon as you've made, the psychopath is very, like I said, they don't have emotion. And so they're very, very logical. So they look at you and they see that as soon as you have fallen into their trap, and that means when you have gotten in deeper, where it's more difficult to get out than to stay in, you've opted in, okay? You've made a commitment. You've dropped in. You fell into the black hole of commitment as a man. They realize that. Now a psychopath, then let's say, for example, in this case, the psychopath wants a baby. So as soon as they find out they're pregnant and they can logically see that you have now fallen into the trap, you love them, you care about them, and you care about the coming baby, and you care about the family, they see, oh, okay, this person is very emotional about this, right? Now, they get bored. They've got what they want. Now they're bored. So what makes a psychopath feel dopamine? What makes a psychopath feel dopamine is essentially hurting and destroying other people. There's two things they get. They get dopamine from someone praising them. So during the love bombing stage, they get dopamine too, because they are mirroring back the other person's best self to themselves. So the other person is absolutely ecstatic and is telling them they're great basically all the time. You're so beautiful. You're so great. The psychopath wants people around them all the time that are praising them, that are making them, they have an exaggerated sense of self-importance. So they feel that they're very important. So they could be, for example, their claim to fame in life could be something like, getting a boob job and being a stripper, but that doesn't matter. They feel that they're more important or more valuable or more smart, more intelligent than other people. This is a characteristic of a psychopath. They absolutely feel that they are more important than others. And this sense of self-importance allows them to do what they want because they deserve it. This is the way they are. They deserve this. Now, again, I'm using a female as an example, but I think it's important to know this could be a man in your life. And any type of psychopath is very dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous to you. So if you spot these characteristics from any type of person, and it doesn't have to be that you're a social person, you could be somebody who cares about, likes to be very safe in life. You don't like to take risk. You like to invest in safe stocks or real estate. And so what they might do is they're trying to get you off of your kilter. So they might get you to invest in something very risky, right? Or take chances. Or if you care about your job, they might try to get you, they might start, implanting subtle signs to get you not to do that. Like, you like to travel, don't you? Don't you like to travel? Don't you like to take time off? And they're trying to get you away. They're trying to separate you from that thing that's the most important. So this is the second stage. First stage is love bombing, where they're recognizing this is important to you. They are reflecting it back to you. They are praising you for the one thing that you consider the most valuable, and you are falling deeply and madly in love with them. Then they want to, okay, now they're bored. They got what they want. So maybe you're married to them. Legally, they have a right to half your assets. They have your child, whatever it is that they want, okay? Then they're bored. So now they don't really have any use for you anymore. You're basically useless to them. So they're going to play with you, similar to when a cat plays with a mouse. A predator doesn't always, like you think of the African savannah, what is a predator? A predator is not necessarily any real predators in the real world. They play with their prey. They always do. A cat plays with the mouse. A cat is a predator. A cat kills most domestic, natural what do you call that? In the ecosystem, birds and different animals, the rats, mice, all kinds of bugs, flies. I mean, cats just kill things. They just are predators. They just are predators. So when you watch a cat, why does the cat play with his food? Why does the cat play with the mouse, even when he doesn't want to eat him? It's because that's how predators act. This is a predator. So a psychopath is a human predator. So they enjoy playing with things, even if they're not going to kill them. They just enjoy it. It's like this brings the dopamine to them. Now, I want to say, be very careful about calling people good or bad, because good or bad is it's not a good way to start a discussion. It's not a good way to logically look at life. In the end of, when you've analyzed every detail, every aspect of something, you might finally, in the end, decide that the word like evil is a good word for you, and it describes, to the best of your ability, there's no perfect word for things. It might describe what I'm talking about here, but don't resist the urge to use it in the beginning. You want to logically understand this type of thing, because once you get emotional, as a normal emotional person who emotes, you will get illogical. So stay logical on me, okay? So let's just say, what does a psychopath do? A psychopath is a predator, okay? A predator. Now let's not take the bad predator. A cat is a predator, right? You love cats. I love cats. I always put cats in videos. But what is a cat? A cat is a predator, very clearly. So the cat plays with his prey, and even if he doesn't want to eat it. So let's think of cats here. I love cats, but they're predators. Okay, so you wouldn't want to be a mouse if there was a cat, right? But you are. And here's the thing: human beings, normal emotional people, normal human beings in the middle of the bell curve are mice to predatory personalities. We are, because we don't have that emotion. We don't have the capacity to even fight with them, because we feel things. We care about things. And we just don't have the capacity. And no matter how tough you are as a man, no matter how ruthless you are, you've killed 40 people in war, 150 people you strangled in Vietnam. You did that because you were in a wartime. Okay, you didn't do that just for fun, just at your company, right? So men just have, normal man has emotion and cannot compete. This is one of the hardest things to accept. And this is why guys have such a difficult time accepting that women can be predators, because guys don't want to be seen as prey. Men don't want to be seen as weak. And so what happens instead? We get eaten like mice. We get killed without even being eaten. Just prey. So you have to understand, these are predators. These are dangerous people for you. And again, I'm separating this from a normal woman. I'm making a big distinction here. And you have to know, because if you are dealing with a predator, you have to take this very seriously if you want to survive. Your life is on the line. Your mental health, your physical health. A very common result of a psychopathic abuse is suicide. So it's life and death, guys. So I'm describing this for a very good reason. So let's go back. I'll finish my story up here quick. So the predator got what they wanted. They mirrored you. Now they are trying to separate you from that one thing that is the most important thing to you. Why are they doing this? Just simply because they're bored. They're playing with you now. They don't need you anymore. They don't need you at all. They have no need for you. They have no connection with you. You're like a stranger to them. A psychopath, when you have sex with a psychopath, it's like they're handing you a loaf of bread. And this is one thing I noticed with the psychopath that I met, is the very first time we had sex, it was just like dropping the clothes and just jumping in. I just thought, wait a second, this is not normal. Like with women, I've been with a lot of women. They want to, they're shy, there's some kind of whatever it is, like social graces. There's a feeling that there's a femininity, there's a I don't share this with everybody kind of feeling. There's a sacredness, essentially, to kissing, to sex, to being intimate. There's something. But a psychopath does not feel that again. The feeling is not there. So a psychopath, when they have sex, it's just like they're doing it just because they see it as beneficial, or they see it as a way to get what they want from you. So a female psychopath will use sex because a male psychopath doesn't use sex unless he's gay. But a female psychopath, sex, sexuality, and the ability to sexualize things is a very powerful technique for a female, because they know that's what men want. Men want a woman, initially, men want a woman who will have sex with them, right? They don't want to tease, right? They want, and a psychopath, that's not a problem. I mean, they don't value their bodies in the same way. They don't value social norms. In fact, a psychopath enjoys breaking social norms. So, for example, a psychopath will be in a situation just like the job. Okay, again, somebody works for a company, they're treated very well, and a psychopath will just steal the database, and meanwhile blame it on somebody else who gets fired and loses all their reputation. And the psychopath is like, they feel great. They feel a rush of dopamine. It's like, not only did they get what they wanted, that means they're smart, and then they see the sadness in the other person. That gives them dopamine too, because it's like they caused this. They made a difference in the world. They caused this person to lose everything. And they think that's quite interesting. Psychopath, they're watching this like a movie. They're like, oh, that's very interesting. Look at that person losing everything because of me. Look how powerful I'm very powerful, right? So they enjoy seeing the destruction of other people. This is what gives a rush of dopamine. So this is also considered sadism. So you could say that sadistic personality disorder, as SAD, and psychopathy are very interrelated at this level. They enjoy the pain of others. They enjoy the frustration. This makes them feel... Okay, I want to make a distinction. They don't like to see pain in unrelated people. So, for example, if they watch an earthquake in Haiti and they see a child being crushed by a rock, that doesn't make them feel happy. What makes them feel happy is when they cause the destruction. So when they make somebody else in dire straits, so lose their company, lose their money, cry, emotionally break down. This makes them feel powerful. And this gives them a rush of dopamine. Because again, they have an elevated sense of self-importance. So when they do something, it's like they are the man, right? They are so powerful. Look at these other weak people. And I believe, I never heard this before, but I truly believe that female psychopaths really enjoy breaking down strong males. I just have seen this in my life. I think that they really relish when they see a strong man to destroy that man. And I've even seen this in non-psychopathic women, that there is some kind of an anger in modern society where women feel a little bit justified in hurting men, in causing men emotional difficulty. But with a psychopath, again, it's not... A normal woman might do that because she's angry, okay? A psychopath, this is what gives them a rush of dopamine. They enjoy it. They smile. Just like the cat is very, very happy to be playing with the mouse. Just literally, he's not feeling angry. This is the distinction here. A normal woman might do something because she's so angry, she goes and does something. A psychopath actually enjoys it. She's like, this is fun. Look at this guy, right? So back to the kid with the baby, okay? She's now got a child. She got what she wanted. She realizes that this guy is a very social person and he values social connections above all else. What's the first thing she does? She isolates him. She makes sure that he doesn't talk to anybody. So, for example, he's stuck in the house. She might give him tasks where he has to be alone. You know, can you clean the house? I have to go out. And then, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Alone. Can you walk the dogs? Can you take this? Can you do this? Everything is alone. And the reason why is because they initially spotted that this is the one thing that you value the most. They gave that to you in the stage where they were still wanting something from you. And now they don't value you at all, and they're just playing with you and waiting till you basically crack down, break down, leave, commit suicide. It doesn't really matter. It's all fun to them. It's just enjoyable. It's kind of like when you might have a pressure cooker let's say you could turn up a pressure cooker as high as you wanted. You could just turn it up as high as you wanted, and then it would eventually explode. As a kid, you're sitting there and you got the pressure cooker and you're turning it up, and then you're watching it finally, like, when's it going to explode? What's going to happen? Is the top going to fly off? Is it going to break into pieces? Or you might throw like a aerosol can into a fire because you're kind of like, I wonder how long it's going to take. I remember doing that as a kid, and I remember putting pennies on the train track thinking, I heard that when the train comes, it flattens them out. Right? I'm thinking, I wonder the penny's going to look like afterwards. This is how a psychopath is like with you. So they're just like, they're throwing you in the fire and they're wondering, when is he going to explode? How is he going to explode? How can I use that to my advantage if he explodes? Because what happens is you are now being manipulated on the thing that you consider the most important. So they know that this is the one thing that tethers you to yourself. So this is your one most valuable asset, okay? So in the case of the social person, when they isolate you from talking to everybody, they might go to extreme lengths. So for example, they might get you to move to a new country. They might get you to be isolated in the house. And then you might, use social media because you're going to find ways to be social. Like, even though you can't physically talk to people because you're stuck in the house, but you're going to be social with social media. You're going to call people. You're going to be posting. You're going to be talking. You're going to be laughing. You're going to be social. Anyway, these days, being isolated doesn't mean that you're not social. For a social person, they love to be social. You're going to make videos. You're going to do different things. They're going to start to get rid of that. They're going to realize this is important to you. And they have not been able to, in other words, they threw you in the fire and you didn't explode. So then they're analyzing you. The fire died down. They're like, what was the reason? Why did this can not explode? Like, I threw it in the fire and it didn't explode. And then they're going to realize, social media, right? Or they're going to say, he went to that party. He met those people. So then what they might do is they might say, who did you meet? And then you say, I met this person, blah, blah. We had a good time, blah, blah. Or you might post a picture of having fun with them. They're going to immediately know that you've formed a human bond with that person. You are happy and you are very ecstatic. You can see on your face from your social media post that you're quite happy to be meeting this new person. You're laughing together. You're very excited. The psychopath's like, my plan is not working. Like, this person is still finding happiness with their most important thing. I must stop this. So they will go to any extreme, and this is where you start to spot the irregularities, is when they kind of cross the line. And this is where you have to be really watching people. Is, for example, they might do anything they can. Like, if they find out you made a friend, they might say, what's their name? And they're going to ask you all kinds of questions about that person. And they're going to try to find something about them through internet research or something. They're going to do anything they can to denigrate that person, okay, to make that person no good, okay? So they might, like, for example, like you say, hey, this person bought a house, and they made a lot of money. They're going to say, what's the address? And they look it up on the database. If they have access to a database, they're going to find out, what's the address? What's the name? That's not, he doesn't, they're going to do anything they can to denigrate, to make you. And why do they do that? There's two reasons. One reason is that they want you to doubt yourself, okay? And they want you to trust them. So what they want you to do, what they're trying to get you to do, is separate yourself from your most important, the thing that tethers you to reality, essentially. Okay, whether it's your job, your personality, your connection to, like, being a very safe person, or being very intelligent, whatever it is, being very social. They're going to separate you from that as much as they can. They're going to make you doubt yourself. So by denigrating that person that you met, that you enjoyed meeting, you really had a good time, they're saying to you that you can't really trust your judgment, because you made friends with this person, right? But this person is a total fraud. They're going to go to any length to make that person look bad, for example, just in this example, right? So they're going to say, this person is distrusted. Look online, they did this. Look online, they did that. And they're going to find something that that contradicts the story that you just told them. And again, it's one reason is to make you distrust your own judgment, and it's to and of course to isolate you from the thing that tethers you to your reality. And then the third thing, the reason why they're going to do that is because they want you to they've now kind of separated you from the thing. So you're like a boat now drifting in the ocean. You're no longer in a harbor, a safe harbor. You're now in the middle of the ocean. And so you're at risk now. Now, what do they want you to do? They want you to trust them. So they're going to say something like, if you say something like, let's say you have a big fight and you say something like, hey, I just, we didn't have any people in the house. We were not social. You made me like not have any friends in the house. And I started to get very unhappy with that. And that was very weird. I couldn't understand that. And, I was very lonely and I didn't feel good about that. And then they'll say, don't worry. I understand. I did that. I'm sorry. But I will fix it for you. Okay, now, a normal person would never say that. A normal person, they would never do that. A normal person would never, ever try to separate you from the thing that tethers you to reality. In fact, they're going to buttress that because they're going to consider their friend, their lover, the husband, the father, the child, their father, their mother, their neighbor, anybody. They're going to consider that they look like sacredly at these things. So it's like, this is their belief in God is what tethers them to reality. Their belief in their enjoyment of the way that they process emotions, the way that they do it is from reading books. I'm not going to stop them from reading books, of course. I'm going to encourage them to read books. In fact, I'm going to read books with them and talk about books with them because I know this is what they value most, right? So a normal person would never ever mess with the secret sauce that keeps you sane, keeps you happy. In fact, they're going to try to support that, right? So if you enjoy cars, they're going to talk about cars, right? They're going to encourage you to go to car shows or to, fix up a car, whatever it is that, kind of does it. But again, this psychopath, they enjoy playing with you. So they're playing with you now. They don't have any need for you anymore. They're just playing with you like a cat and a mouse. And they're damaging. They're what the mouse is going through and what the cat is feeling is completely different. The mouse is basically seeing his life force being snuffed out every time he gets hit with another claw or smashed or bitten. The cat is just kind of like watching the mouse, enjoying moving it around, in no hurry to do anything, leaves it there for an hour. And then finally the mouse starts running and then the cat stops him. He's just kind of keeping an eye on him. And then eventually either he might just give up and let him live or he might not. He might, just beat him to death. Whatever it is, the cat's just like totally random the way the cat is going to deal with this prey that he has. He might get hungry and eat him, possibly. But a lot of times a real predator, they will kill just to kill. They will enjoy that. And this is what people often say about hunters. They kill, trophy. They don't kill to kill. This is why we have different like levels of goodness and badness. So if you kill to eat, you're hungry and you need to eat and you kill an animal and eat it, people don't consider that generally so bad. Even a vegan would be like, I understand that. I understand you were starving to death and you had to eat something and you ate that chicken. I understand that. Whereas somebody who goes to Africa and just shoots a beautiful giraffe for no reason and leaves it on the ground, that is considered a evil act, right? We put that label on there. So the psychopath separates you and creates the final stage is that you only trust them. So they want to control every aspect of reality, and then they just do whatever they want with you at this point. They just throw you out. If you commit suicide, that's fine. That's interesting. They would go to the funeral. They would probably smear you at the funeral. They would see this because now they're in again, they don't have emotion. So the person's dead and they're like, they might go to the funeral and they might say something like, oh, they were, my boyfriend or husband, they were a good person, blah, blah, blah. but they got angry sometimes, and I saw their dark side sometimes, and so I wondered, I tried to help him, but it just wasn't possible. Like, I wish I could have done more. And she cries or whatever. And so she will use, again, the psychopath wakes up every day and is still a psychopath. And this is what's difficult for a normal person to understand, is they don't have emotions. The emotions never come. They never get their comeuppance. There is no karma in life. The next day they wake up and they're exactly the same. Now that person's gone, they're thinking how they can take advantage of this new situation. Well, they can look like the long-suffering victim. So this is often what a psychopath will do. Will always be a victim. So, and also they will smear people in a way that is very, very dangerous for somebody who isn't used to it. Because a psychopath will never smear somebody directly. So say something like, this person's a bad person. What they're going to do, a psychopath knows they're going to discard everybody in their life. So everybody is disposable. Everybody is, until they get what they want, okay, basically. So what they will do is they know that they're going to discard you. They know that they're going to hurt you, okay, in the end. And so this is like the way this is a cycle for them. It's just, you're temporary. They know that. So what they're going to do is they will, when they first meet you, they're going to love bomb you. But then as soon as they stop love bombing you, which could be as soon as 2 weeks away, or a month away, it doesn't take very long for them to be of no use to them. But once they decide you're of no use to them, however long that takes, they will start to, because they know they're going to, this is the difficult thing to understand for normal people, is that they are cognitively aware and very coldly, calculatingly doing what they're doing. This is the most difficult thing to understand. You might have to listen to this a few times to really understand that they are aware of how they're acting, and they're aware of how you're reacting to their actions, the abuse, and they know that in the end, it's going to be a very painful experience for you, and you're going to regret it. And you're going to have difficulty afterwards, difficulty understanding it, difficulty coming to grips with it, difficulty dealing with it. They know that in the end, you're going to have no closure, because you never get any closure from a psychopath. A psychopath, they just move on. It's just like they just move on like nothing happened. They don't have any emotion. They don't, when they divorce somebody, they're not sitting around crying all the time, because there's no emotion. There's like, oh, I'm done. Let's see, the money's all divided up. Okay, I move on. And again, separate normal people. Normal people also want to move on with their lives. So the difference between somebody who feels no emotion, has no ability to bond with people, and somebody who is trying their best to move on, it's not easy. They still have a love bond with the person. When they see a picture of them, they cry. There's these normal human emotions. The psychopath has none of that. None of that. They're just sitting there watching their regular TV show. And then they're like, oh, I have to talk to the divorce lawyer. I have to figure this out. And the only time they're going to show emotion is when they have to. So when someone's watching them. So when they're alone, for example, let's say caring for a child, they're just going to be staring at the child like almost with no emotion. Like the psychopathic stare is 1,000-mile stare. It's just looking at them. And the child is sitting there not getting any reaction. It's very bad for the kid, because how kids discover who they are, they don't realize, small children don't realize that other people are other people. They think they're all part of them. And it's a slow process of understanding that where the end of their body is and where the beginning of the world is and where other people began. And then later they figure out how other people feel. And all this kind of, the baby starts to discover the world around him. Where the psychopath does not give the baby what the baby needs. The baby needs a reaction. The baby needs a smile. The baby needs a psychopath. Just essentially, when they're alone and no one's watching, they're just like sitting there staring at the kid, like, and it's interesting for them, but they don't have any reaction. There's not. Now, if somebody's watching, a psychopath, again, because their job is deception, their job is manipulation. So they have a lot of, like I said, very clear thinking. They have a lot of free time. Okay, they're not sitting around ruminating or crying about things. They're very clear, and they get over very big life crises very easy. these people bounce back very easily. Life is easy for them in a way because they just don't have that emotional pull. So what they're going to do is but again, they want that dopamine hit. They want to get what they want to get. So if somebody's watching them, again, they can be mother of the year because, it's fake. They're putting on an act for you. It's a mask. They're putting on an act. They want you to think of them as a good person. And this will allow them to manipulate you and allow them to use you to manipulate other people to get what they want. A psychopath always has a lot of people around them because these are essential to have around them because this is their, almost like their representatives, okay? So the people that say they're good people. So, for example, they discard you from the beginning. So let me go back to that. How they discard you. What they do is they know you're temporary. So when they first meet you, they're very love-bombing. Love-bombing ends. Then they start to plant the seeds of doubt in the people they talk to. So they might go to their best friend. They might say, I don't feel that he cares about me. Or he seems cold. Or I don't, they're going to start to put things that doesn't make you look bad. Okay? It's very, very subtle. But what it does is it implants in the mind of people early in the relationship because the psychopath knows they're going to discard everybody. So, but they also know that if they're seen as discarding people who are good to them, that's going to make them look bad. And then people might say, hey, wait, does this person even have human bonds? Like, are they normal? And then that ruins their ability. So what they do is they know they're going to do this. So they start to put seeds of doubt that they're being treated well by the man. And so then when they finally do discard the person, everybody who, that they're trying to convince that they're a good person and why they broke up with this person or why they, took the baby away from this person is because the person, there's a reason for that. And it's not them. It's never them. It's the other person. So they put the seeds of doubt in the beginning of the relationship. So to a person being manipulated by a psychopath, you can't even imagine this. When you're deeply in love with somebody, like the last thing you're going to do is, say anything bad about them. Like everything you say is good about them, basically, You're like, oh, they're so great. And you read things into them that aren't even true, Like, oh, they're so great. They're great at this. They're great at that. They love my food. They love, we had so much fun. And, and you're almost like in a daze, in a dream, right? Whereas psychopaths, exact opposite. They already know, it's essentially think of them as a serial killer. A psychopath and a serial killer think exactly the same way. Okay, they don't kill people. Psychopaths, they never, very rarely kill people, but they do kill people emotionally. And so what they're going to do is they're going to target people who are vulnerable, just like a serial killer will target prostitutes, homeless people, people that don't have a family. Again, a psychopath is going to target somebody who they don't feel is supported. So they might hear some stories and the person has a manipulated father or mother or is some kind of broken family. They're going to see that as an opportunity. Now, also a psychopath, a very high-level psychopath, might target a very natural, healthy person with a healthy family because they see that as a challenge. They might target the most healthy guy, the happiest guy with the biggest smile and the best family because they see that as a real sign that they're really super powerful. So it depends on the level of psychopath we're talking about. What level of polish do they have? What level of skill? What level of confidence do they have? That determines the level of person that they're going to try to take down or take advantage of. Okay, so I want to wrap this up, and then the final result is that essentially the person just moves on and moves on to another person that they're going to manipulate. Now, they will be manipulating several people while they're manipulating the one person. And this is the amazing thing about psychopaths, is they have the capacity to carry on several clandestine relationships at the same time. And they have the ability to, let's say, for example, cheat, which cheat doesn't have any meaning to the psychopath, but they have the ability to cheat at times when a normal person could not. So, for example, they might cheat on their birthday. Or they might cheat on Valentine's Day. So they're going to cheat like they like to break rules. Okay, a psychopath sees everybody out there as an idiot. All these emotional people to them are morons. Like, why are they so emotional? They should be logical, right? It's like I talked about the organ donation, organ selling. They're like, why aren't people emotional? Why are people so emotional? Like, they're so weak. They see everybody as weak. And so they also see social roles as a total joke, but essential for them. So they want to look normal. So they're going to get a husband. They're going to have a job. They're going to groom themselves well. In fact, they're going to groom themselves very, very attractively, usually. Female psychopaths, again, use sex as a way to manipulate and control. And so they will dress more sexy. They will sexualize objects. So, for example, you might see a bottle and they might like hint like, or they might say like, oh, this is a interesting shaped bottle, and then smile. And then every guy on the table is like, ha, 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 ha. Or, I had a cesarean section because the baby couldn't fit out. I guess it was me, and they'll say something like that. And then in a social setting, and then every guy is like, she's saying she has a tight pussy. Oh, I want to get some of that, right? So the sociopath, psychopath does not have any shame. Again, when they have sex with you, it's like handing you a loaf of bread. There is no emotional connection. So with most women, when they get intimate with a guy, that is the women's most weak moment. And so this is when, for example, if you don't call the woman back, say the next day, and say, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you. I had a great time yesterday. You were very sweet. I'm thinking about you, because you guys had sex for the first time, right? That's very important to women. Women have even been known to file false allegations of rape when they don't feel that. They feel discarded, and they feel angry, and they feel like they weren't valued, and they open themselves up, and then the guy took advantage of them, and it really incenses women. But a psychopath is not like that. A psychopath doesn't value their own body. They don't value things like that. They just use them for their advantage. They realize how much power their body has, and they use it to full advantage. So when a psychopath, psychopathic female is intimate with a man, the exact opposite happens in usual. Usually, a woman is weak, and she's looking to the man for support and caring. A psychopath will have sex on a moment's notice, as long as nobody else knows. And then she now has more control of the man, because he's under her power now sexually. Now he sees her as special. She doesn't care what she looks like to him. She doesn't care about that. She cares about, now the guy is going to give me money. Now the guy is going to help me move. Now the guy is going to support me. Now the guy is going to, when I say something in the office, he's going to support me politically. Now my boss is going to give me a raise. She's just simply thinking of her ability to control and manipulate him is now greater because they're intimate. That's a big difference in normal women. Normal women, after sex the first time, they feel very vulnerable. A psychopath, when it comes to sex, it's literally like handing you a loaf of bread when they have sex. It's like there is no emotion. There's no connection. They don't feel the same way that normal people feel about intimacy. And they can do it on a drop of a hat. And last thing I'll say, which is really scary about psychopaths, is that they really delight. How do they get dopamine hit? They need that dopamine hit, new dopamine hit, new dopamine hit. Again, they're bored. They're always bored. They don't have the normal emotion that keeps you interested in life. You watch a movie, you cry. You watch, you talk to your niece or nephew. You feel this emotion that satisfies you for the day. Somebody says you did a good job at work. That affects your emotions. This is how we keep entertained in life. This is what we silently causes us to feel there's meaning in life. These kind of little emotional hits or big emotional hits. Might be an emotion from a job well done or whatever. Psychopath doesn't have that. So a psychopath, again, they want a dopamine hit again. They're a drug addict. They want another hit. So what gives them a hit? What gives them a hit is, again, like, for example, stealing from a very honest employer who supported them all the way through their difficult times. That makes them feel a huge hit of dopamine, because it's like they're just fucking this person, right? It's like they know it's not acceptable. They know. That's why they cover it up. but they feel very powerful when they do stuff like this. So another thing they might do, a psychopath, is, let's say that a psychopathic woman is out having lunch with her new husband and baby. And they're, like, just imagine you're outside on the balcony. It's sunny. It's beautiful. And then she walks to go to the bathroom. Now, when she gets to the bathroom, let's say that a guy knew she was a psychopath for some reason. He had some kind of new technology, where he could like read her as being a psychopath. And he might say, "Hey, I saw you out there with your husband, the guy looks, really wimpy, I bet, why are you acting like such a fucking, good wife? I know you want the fucking hard dick, you're probably not getting it, I got a big cock, I'd love to, I'm thinking about something." She's like, "What are you thinking about?" She's like, "I'm thinking about fucking you raw right now in this toilet, and you muffling your voice." And, and then in a psychopath, as long as the husband is, sitting there happily with the baby and the other out on the balcony, and then this guy is like offering this is a chance for her to break all the rules. She does not feel confined by social norms. A psychopath is just, social norms are a mask that they wear in order to manipulate other people in the future and get what they want. And they actually detest normal things. They detest the role of wife. They detest the role of girlfriend. They detest the role of a loyal employee. And they enjoy breaking the rules and spitting on society's rules. And, we all have a little bit of this, but a psychopath is very extreme. So a psychopath, that might be like a real, if the guy says it right, she's just going to go fuck the guy. And she will enjoy the fact that her husband trusts her. She will enjoy the fact that they just had a baby and that she's having sex with this stranger for the very first time since she gave birth. And she's coming on this guy's dick. And she will enjoy the fact that if her husband knew, he would break down and cry and it would destroy his life. And he might be so down that he might become a recluse or something, right? This is like very exciting for her. This makes her feel very powerful. She feels like, wow, I am so powerful. Look at what I can do to people. Look at the effect I have on people. It's amazing. If he only knew. So psychopath, you don't even have to know. Just the fact that she did something that would really hurt you gives her serious wood. She feels very excited about that. And she also might enjoy if everybody else knows. So for example, she might deliberately, let's say that in this scenario, she does go in the bathroom with the guy and he fucks her. She might deliberately let him fuck her and, like a real loud sound of sex or juice, slapping sound or her moaning is loud enough that maybe even some women in the bathroom know at this expensive restaurant or even a waiter hears, this, and then everybody kind of knows what she just did. And then she like pulls up her, pants and she goes back out to her husband, kisses him, sits down with the baby, plays with the baby, because this is the ultimate for her. This is like, she's fooling everybody and she's breaking all the rules and she's powerful. And if people knew, they would be destroyed. And the reason why they'd be destroyed is because they're weak. So this is how a psychopath thinks. And this is why there's a big difference between a normal person and a psychopath, and why you have to be so careful to discern this. Because if you get involved with a psychopath, you need to know as soon as possible, and you need to protect yourself. Again, as a man, it's difficult to accept that you are not in control of every situation. But, really, guys, the truth is you're not, and you know that, right? If there's an earthquake, what are you going to do? If there's a nuclear bomb that lands in your neighborhood, what are you going to do to protect your family? If you're in an accident, if you're driving and a car hits you at 90 miles an hour from behind, are you going to protect your family? Is there going to be anything you can do? No. There's a lot of things in life we don't have any control over. You might get cancer and leave your family, your wife, a widow, very young, beyond your control. So there's a lot of things that are beyond your control. There's a lot of things in life that you cannot that you cannot affect. And so when it comes to a psychopath, you just have to accept that there are people out there who, because they don't have these human bonds, they don't have this emotion, and they enjoy seeing people destroyed. It makes them feel powerful. They lack empathy. They lack emotive empathy, where they feel what the other person feels. So there are no brakes on these people. And if you recognize that, this makes it very easy to spot danger for yourself, or to get out of danger, or to counsel a friend who you see in danger, right? And it's very important to know, again, that psychopathy affects men and women the same percentage. It's a genetic, it's testable with an MRI. And then you have other forms of malignant cluster B personalities, which are very similar, but they're not necessarily from birth. They were because of some circumstance or some decision they made, or whatever. They ended up being a malignant abuser, a manipulative person, and that they are also similar. They as far as their effect on you is very similar. So I hope this helps you. Maybe you think 15% of the population is somewhere on the scale of cluster B. So you've known people who are cluster B or even extreme cluster B. Not just me. I told you I knew a man and a woman. I probably knew a bunch. But I know very clearly I've known a couple of real psychopaths who just truly didn't have empathy for other people. And again, can you really blame these people? Like, what if you had let's say you had a infrared scanner, you could walk through a school, say you're a school teacher, and there's 35 students. There's going to be 2 psychopaths or extreme cluster Bs in your class. What would you do if you knew about that? Do they deserve to be shot? Where is the line? Like, these people are just the way they are. So obviously, I don't think there's anything you can really, this is the way they are. So the key thing is just to know that's the way it is, and then to avoid them, and to avoid situations, to recognize the signs, to recognize the difference between a normal woman and a psychopathic woman or a sociopath, to recognize the difference so that you can protect yourself. You might fall into something like at a boss, that's psychopathic or whatever, but you after hearing this, you'll start to recognize things. You'll be like, wait a second, that is not normal. That is not normal. And then there'll be one red flag. And then you'll see another thing. You'll be like, that is not normal. And you'll see a third thing. And then you'll start to say, oh my gosh, this Ronin man was right. There is people in my life who exhibit these characteristics. And what should you do? Okay, like I said, what do they deserve? Nothing from you. Don't do anything. Should you unmask them? Okay, would you unmask, let's say that you found out that Jeffrey Dahmer was your neighbor. Are you going to tell the building manager about him? Are you going to go to the police? Put yourself on Jeffrey Dahmer's radar and take the risk that Jeffrey Dahmer is going to say, have everything covered up, and then he's going to say, he's going to find out that you went to the police and said that he killed people? We're dealing with people who are serial killer level cold people. So you don't want to mess with them. And this is the hardest thing for guys. There is nothing you can do. You cannot mess with these people. These people are so cold and you are so normal that there's no way you can compete with these people. And that's accepting that you are prey. Okay, accepting that an earthquake is stronger than you. Accepting that if the sun runs out of nuclear fuel and becomes a red giant, burns the earth, and becomes a black hole and everything explodes and begins again, is out of your control, is a good thing, because it is reality. So you don't want to fight with these people. You want to recognize them. You want to quietly know this is the situation, and you want to see your own weakness. Very important to see that you cannot compete. You cannot tit for tat with somebody like this unless you are a psychopath yourself. And then, fine, go ahead, or if you have a suicidal wish and you want to extreme danger, I don't think this is the way to do it. I think this is madness. I think that once you recognize an extreme cluster B personality, the smartest thing to do is to learn what you learned from them. What did they teach you? Okay. And then take that wisdom to the next person. Okay. Allow them to go on their way. You might be wrong. Okay. But trust yourself for your own life. You say, I trust that what I saw, what I felt, the situations I was in, where I was in, my judgment is correct about those. I've thought about it every angle, and you have to trust yourself. And this is how you recover also, is you go back to yourself and you heal those wounds, those weaknesses they took advantage of. Okay. And also some things are not weaknesses they took advantage of. Like, for example, your socialness or your love for your job, desire to be a good man, desire to help other people, whatever it was they took advantage of, desire for a baby, they took advantage of this. That wasn't a weakness, but it was a weakness to a psychopath. So what you do with that is the next time that somebody gives you undue praise or starts kind of giving you fake compliments, you want to look at them very clear. Like, what are they trying to accomplish with this? Why are they so intent on getting me on their side? What are they doing? What's going on here? This is not normal. They're trying to manipulate me to do something. And you can start to spot manipulation both on the on the malignant side and also on the regular manipulation, because now you've come to grips with the fact that you can be manipulated, successfully, and that you are prey for emotional abusers. So you are weak, and that's when you start to realize, and that's when you conversely, this is when you get strong, because you say, hey, now I know, now I'm honest with myself, now I spot, now I act, now I'm aware, now I'm wiser, and also you know yourself better, because you realize, holy moly, I'm a normal, healthy, emotional person, and I have a lot to give. I have a lot to offer the world, and that's why people would want to manipulate me, because they would want to get something from me. What do they want to get? What do I have that I didn't even recognize before? And then you start to realize you have a good sense of humor. You bring happiness to people. You're an honest person. You enjoy the company of others. And you start to see yourself. And this is a very good way to understand who you are. And this is what the real gold that comes from being manipulated, from being brushing up against a psychopath, is that in the end you leave, if you heal, okay, and you don't heal on your own. You have to heal this by hardcore work on yourself that I'm talking about. This what I came to this conclusion was a result of tens of thousands of hours of study, many, many books, tens of books, and also thousands of pages that I wrote about what happened to me. And finally, I could understand it from the outside. And also I could get the what I needed to learn from this, which is who I am and what I have to offer the world, and also what I value. And, I see myself differently now. I didn't know a lot of things about myself that I learned from this situation. So in the end, for myself, I actually am grateful for the experience. I'm very grateful for being forced to go deep into myself. I truly am happy. I'm not kidding either. I am actually ecstatic that I was able to learn something at age 53. We're talking deep shit here. I'm not talking small stuff here. I'm talking about realizations I haven't had about myself since I was like 16. It really made me young again, because I realized, holy moly, like I'm this person I didn't even know. I have so much to offer people. This is why you guys listen to my podcast. This is why my friends like me. This is why my life is the way it is. This is why I've made the choices I've made, because I am the way I am. I have the skills. I have the value system that I have. And I'm very, very happy about that. I'm happy about who I am, And I learned, the last thing I'll say, I learned about my insecurities. And I was able to imagine there's a jug with some holes in the bottom. You always wondered why the water ran out so fast. It's because there was holes in the bottom of the jug. And those are insecurities that you had not healed. And also things that could be taken advantage of that you did not recognize could be taken advantage of, because you're a normal emotional person who would never take advantage of other people. But now you recognize it's kind of like, actually I'll say one more story. there was a bird in the South Pacific. I can't remember which island, but I think it was New Zealand actually. And the birds were like, it was like heaven until the Polynesian explorers arrived, and in their boat, those explorers brought rats. Now the rats went into the island, and the birds were very tough. They had big talons. They were real hunters. They were like real predators, but they had limited amount of enemies. They didn't have any rats. Now the rat is a very different creature than a bird. So for example, with a bird is flying above. So the other bird's on the ground. What the bird would do to not be eaten would stay completely still and not move a single muscle, so that the bird up in the sky would not see it and would fly away. A rat, when a bird sits still and tries to stay still as much as it can, the rat just comes up and eats it. Because the rat is like, what a stupid bird. He's just fucking sitting there. And then even after he starts eating, he just sits there. Because the bird only knows one way to protect himself, and that's to stay still. So the bird was probably thinking, nobody knows what he was really thinking, but he probably thought, if I just sit here long enough, this rat's going to leave. He's going to realize that I'm not a bird. He's going to, but meanwhile, the rat's just like, here's a tasty bird who's just sitting still for me. Let's have some dinner. Yum, yum, yum. So that is a psychopath in a normal person's life. It's a predator that all of your defenses don't work with. So you have to learn to spot these predators and then to get a different defense against these predators. Because all the bird had to do is, the bird is a beautiful creature that can just fly away. And that's all the bird had to do to escape the rat. Rats are not super fast. The only reason why the rat was able to eat all the birds on the island and it caused massive extinctions of species was because the birds just literally didn't have any other form of defense other than sit still until the rats came. Now they've evolved, and the birds can fly away, but they didn't originally have that ability because of the lack of predators. So once you understand this type of predator exists, how they operate, it's actually easy to escape them. It's very easy. As dangerous as they are and as terrible as they can be in your life, lacking in empathy and everything, you can just fly away. Once you realize what they are, you just like fly away. And then the rat, just like the manipulated person, literally just moves on to another bird. Like, you know what I mean? It's not a big thing. The rat doesn't try to fly. He doesn't like cry. He doesn't like kill himself or jump in the water. The rat's just like, okay, that bird flew away. There's another bird. He goes over there. So a psychopath will just move on, target another person as you move away. And they say, oh, that wasn't an easy prey. Somehow that bird had evolved to spot me. And actually, the psychopath will avoid that person because now they know that person knows what they're doing, understands who they are. And again, it destroys the mask that they're trying to create to manipulate new people, to get new things from other people. So the predator will avoid anybody who understands them because that's like the worst thing for them. Because the reason why they're so successful is just simply because normal people don't have any other defense. They've never come across this type of rat. So it's like they just sit still, So once you realize what's going on, you just fly away and you don't have any regret about it. You're just like, oh, I'm gone. You just like, literally, that's how easy it is to fly away from a predator. You just say, oh, okay, fly away. Okay. Because the rat's not very fast. He doesn't have like any lasers or guns or anything. He doesn't have any, they're not particularly skilled. I mean, rats are not very, Like these predators are not necessarily so powerful. They're powerful in their own minds, but actually they're not powerful once people know who they are. Their ability is to catch naive people and to use their best skills against them. But once people catch on to them, it's like it's a piece of cake avoiding these people because you're like, okay, I know who this person is. The weakness is with an empathic person is that you're going to always want to change them. You're going to always think they can change. You're going to think the rat can get wings and start flying, but the rat cannot. The rat is a rat, and that is not bad or good. The rat is who he is. He was born who he is. He should be proud of who he is. The rat is living his rat life. The bird, you as a bird are living your bird life. And that's good. We all are doing what we're doing. But you want to protect yourself, right, from this type of thing. And if you allow yourself to fall into this trap, it's pretty bad, right? Like the rat eating you is pretty bad, really, for you. You know, it doesn't get any worse than that. Like you're just a beautiful bird, beautiful feathers. You have a beautiful life in front of you. And instead you're being eaten by this fucking rat. You know, that's not a good thing. So take away the labels of evil, good, bad. Take away all these labels and spot things. Move, educate yourself, have a great life. Avoid the traps that trap so many men and ruin so many lives and are so easy to avoid. They're actually very easy to avoid by spotting and understanding, accepting your own weakness. Life can be very good, my friends, and it should be very good. And I hope this podcast helps you have a better life. Thank you very much for listening to this very important episode to the end. If you did listen, put it down in the bottom, man. I want to see your comments, man. What did you learn? Thank you very much. Ronin Man signing off.